Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Bhagavad Gita. So, today we will read about the only way to see Krishna, which is the verses 11:47 and probably even 48. Um, so, we'll study these two verses how to see Krishna, the only way to see Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So today's topic, Bhagavad Gita chapter 11, texts 47 and 48, the only way to see Krishna. So text 47, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya prasannena tavarjunetam रूपं परं दर्शितमात्मयोगात् तेजोमयं विश्वमनन्तमाद्यं यन्मे त्वदन्येन न दृष्टपूर्वम्. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, happily have I shown you by my internal potency this supreme universal form within the material world. No one before you has ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence. Purport. Arjuna wanted to see the universal form of the Supreme Lord, so Lord Krishna, out of his mercy upon his devotee Arjuna, showed his universal form full of effulgence and opulence. This form was glaring like the sun, and its many faces were rapidly changing. Krishna showed this form just to satisfy the desire of his friend Arjuna. This form was manifested by Krishna through his internal potency, which is inconceivable by human speculation. No one had seen this universal form of the Lord before Arjuna, but because the form was shown to Arjuna, other devotees in the heavenly planets and in other planets in outer space could also see it. They had not seen it before, but because of Arjuna, they were also able to see it. In other words, all the disciplic devotees of the Lord could see the universal form which was shown to Arjuna by the mercy of Krishna. Someone has commented that this form was shown to Duryodhana also when Krishna went to Duryodhana to negotiate for peace. Unfortunately, Duryodhana did not accept the peace offer, but at that time Krishna manifested some of his universal forms. But those forms are different from this one shown to Arjuna. It is clearly said that no one had ever seen this form before. So, we will comment on this one first, and then we will go to the next verse. So, nadrishta purvam, no one has previously seen. Prasannena, maya prasannena tavarjunedam rupam param darshitam atma yogat. Happily have I shown you. So, Krishna reveals himself. He does not reveal himself to non-devotees. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah. But that same yogamaya will uncover Krishna for the devotee. If we go there, 725. See, Naham prakashah sarvasya yogamaya samavritah. Samavritah means, avritah means covered. Samavritah means, sam means samyak avritah. Samyak rupena. So that means completely covered. So just like the curtain, Maya javanika achannam. Achannam means also to be covered. And javanika means curtain. Maya javanika achannam agnya dhokshajam avyayam. So here, let's read this one first. Naham prakashah sarvasya yogamaya samavritah mudhoyam nabhijanati lokomam ajamavyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and inexhaustible. See? So he's never manifest himself to the foolish and unintelligent. What does this mean? What does this mean? So those who are only intelligent people, who are academically good, only to them he shows? No. The unintelligence here means namam dushkritano mudha prapadyante. So 4 kinds of people who do not surrender to me. They are mudha and maya pahrita jnana, naradhama, ashurim bhavam ashrita. So we will, okay, these are the foolish and unintelligent. You see, naradhama, maya pahrita jnana, ashurim bhavam ashrita, and mudha. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender to me. And those who are intelligent, they do this. Just 4 verses later, you see, bahunam janmanamanti jnanavan, the one who is full of knowledge, the one who has knowledge is jnanavan, mam prapadyate. So the person who surrenders to Krishna is the knowledgeable person. It is not the academically or intellectually qualified person. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So jnanavan. So one who is actually knowledgeable. That's why sumedhasa, the word is used. Krishna varnam dusha krishnam sangopangastra parshadam yajnaihi sankirtana prayair yajantihi sumedhasa. So those who are sumedhasa, they yajanti, they worship Krishna through the Sankirtan movement. So Prahlad Maharaj also says, Tanmanye dhitam uttamam. Sri Prahlad uvacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoh Smaranam Pad Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhaktischain Navalakshana Kriyeta Bhagavatyadha Tanmanye dhitam uttamam. You see, Tanmanya Dhitam Uttamam, what is that? I consider Adhitam Uttamam, the topmost learning. The most intelligent person, Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, that means deity worship, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes of devotional service, the Navadha Bhakti, these processes are the ways in which we can surrender to Krishna. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So, see, so the foolish and unintelligent, when Krishna is saying, it is he's meaning those who do not surrender to him. So, going back, no one before you has ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence. So he revealed himself to Arjuna, who was a devotee. Bhakto same sakhacheti rahasyam hi etaduttamam. This secret will be shown only to devotees, like Arjuna, Arjuna's caliber. And also, here it is said that the demigods in the heavens, they also saw this universal form and Arjuna was seeing it. So those who are qualified, they can see it. So that means when Krishna said, Divyam dadami te chakshuhu, I'll give you divine eyes through which you can see. He gave those divine eyes to everybody. Actually, those divine eyes, Prabhupada explains in the next verse, it's the eyes, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. And of course, Arjuna already had those eyes. He's a devotee. But Krishna is mentioning that point that I'm going to give you divine eyes. It is because ordinary people, with our ordinary senses, we cannot see this form. So Krishna is especially making that explicit. Now, you see, other devotees in heavenly planets and in other planets in outer space could also see it. But it is not said that Duryodhan saw it. Although it's the same battlefield he was on, he couldn't see it. Arjuna could see it. So only devotees, and here Prabhupada mentions disciplic devotees. In other words, all the disciplic devotees of the Lord. What is that? That means those who are coming in the parampara, authorized parampara, and who are following and became pure. Such people could see the universal form which was shown to Arjuna by the mercy of Krishna. Of course, the demigods are not completely pure devotees, but they're exalted devotees nonetheless. Some of them are almost pure, some of them are actually pure devotees. Like Vivaswan is a pure devotee. He is one of the acharyas in the Sampradaya, Surya Sampradaya. And Brahma is a pure devotee. Lord Shiva is a pure devotee. So there are demigods who are pure devotees. There are demigods who are not pure devotees yet. So Krishna showed another version of the universal form to Duryodhan. When Krishna went there to negotiate peace before the war, then Duryodhan tried to attack Krishna and try to ambush Krishna. He thought he was like ordinary person or something. But Krishna showed his real nature to desist them. I mean, for them to desist from trying to attack him. So he showed his opulence at the time. He also showed a universal form at the incident of Bali Maharaj, when Bali Maharaj surrendered at the time. He showed his universal form as well. But I'm not completely sure if it's the same universal form that was shown to Arjuna, because here he said never seen before. But these incarnations, they come every day of Brahma, or once in, there is some schedule to this. They may be, because never before means what? In the entire eternity? I don't know. Like even the what is that verse? 7, 8, 19 or 17, something. That na mrigam na manusham, actually, if we see that. Yeah. Adrishyatat adrishyatatyad bhutarupamudvahan. You see? 7, 8, 17, yes. Satyam vidhatum nijabhritya bhashitam vyaptim cha bhuteshvakhileshu chatmanah adrishyatatyadbhutarupamudvahan stambhe sabhayam na mrigam na manusham. You see, adrishyata ati adbhuta. Adrishyata was seen, very wonderful form. Here it is seen, okay. To prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial, in other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of the assembly hall, yeah. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. The form was neither that of a man nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. Wait. Adrishyata. So seen. Seen. Namragam namanusham. Mm. So anyway, it's translated as never before seen. So here also, but he would have definitely come as Narsimha, because Narsimha is an eternal Leela that is going on in different material worlds. So he must have come in, and the name Narsimha is already an eternal name of the Lord. Of course, in the Vaikuntha Loka, he does not exist as half man, half lion. Even the Narsimha there is in the four-handed Vishnu form. But in the material world, this Narsimha form is there. Like at least we know Varaha form came twice, but Narsimha form we do not have exactly that information. But again, there is never a starting. Everything is eternal. Every Leela is eternal. So sometimes things are simplified for our understanding. But at least when Krishna came in that descent, in that incarnation, that was the first time that Krishna showed the form. And even before, he did not show the universal form exactly as he did in this instance. And there are different versions of the universal form that he would have shown in different times. Maybe that can be a thing. Now, going back, so now let's go to 48. न वेदयज्ञाध्ययनैर्न दानैर्न च क्रियाभिर्न तपोभिरुग्रैः एवं रूपः शक्य अहं नृलोके द्रष्टुं त्वदन्येन कुरु प्रवीरा. O best of the Kuru warriors, no one before you has ever seen this universal form of mine. For neither by studying the Vedas, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charity, nor by pious activities, nor by severe penances, can I be seen in this form in the material world. Adhyayana Ayurvedic study, Dane Kriyabhir, Tapobhir Ugrair. Purport. The divine vision in this connection should be clearly understood. Who can have divine vision? Divine means godly. Unless one attains the status of divinity as a demigod, he cannot have divine vision. And what is a demigod? It is stated in the Vedic scriptures that those who are devotees of Lord Vishnu are demigods. Vishnu bhaktaha smrita devaha. Another place it is Vishnu bhakta smrito daiva. Asurastad viparyayah. Those who are atheistic, that is, who do not believe in Vishnu or who recognize only the impersonal part of Krishna as the Supreme, cannot have the divine vision. So this is the thing. That's why the topic of today's class is the only way to see Krishna. So even the impersonalists who may understand the Brahman feature of the Supreme cannot see, cannot have divine vision. It is not possible to decry Krishna and at the same time have the divine vision. So when people claim that, oh, I have seen Virat Rupa, I have seen, but if they are not devotee in the disciplic succession, there's no way. There's no way they can see this form. They're just lying. Because one of them have to be correct, either Krishna or them. So I would go with Krishna because I don't trust anyone else. Krishna is the authority, and if to become trustworthy, I must repeat what Krishna says. Otherwise, I'm proving myself to be a farce. Hmm. So those who are atheistic, that is, who do not believe in Vishnu or who recognize only the impersonal part of Krishna as the supreme, cannot have the divine vision. It is not possible to decry Krishna and at the same time have the divine vision. One cannot have the divine vision without becoming divine. So without becoming divine. So we must become divine in order to have divine vision. And become divine means all aspects of our life should be transcendental. We should only be interested in Krishna and fully absorbed in Krishna's service. At that time, in other words, those who have divine vision can also see like Arjuna. Yes. So then in fact, there was, who is that? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He mentioned that because Bhaktivinoda Thakur described Ishodhyan, the Lord's garden in Mayapur, and the spiritual garden of the Lord, which is not seen by ordinary people. The same place where ordinary people may go and it looks like a normal place, a spiritually elevated soul can see the beautiful garden of the Lord there, the spiritual garden of the Lord. And also, just like we have that, what is that? Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabhir abhipalayantam. So the Vrindavan is full of Chintamani stones, the ground is full of Chintamani gems, the trees are kalpa vrikshas, desire trees, and the cows are surabhi cows, producing unlimited numbers of milk, amounts of milk. So, but when we go to Vrindavan, we may not see the place exactly like that at all. We may calculate it in the material way, but we should know that pure devotees, they see the spiritual reality of Vrindavan, which we may not have access to. Divine vision. So this divine vision means premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. So premanjana churita, those who are imbued with love of Godhead, they can see Krishna. And love of Godhead is not a cheap thing. It should not be understood as a very cheap thing. Oh, I have love of Godhead. Come on. So that's not. Love is a very, very, very elevated thing. It is the most treasured object of anyone. Love of Godhead, Krishna Prema. So it should not be cheapened. That is called Sahajiya. So we have to understand how to get there. In order to get there, the method is given by the pure devotee. And in the beginning, Vaidhi Bhakti. We have to stick to those principles. And it will take a lot of enthusiasm, determination, and patience to advance. It's not that yesterday I started chanting and today I'm a pure devotee. No. You will be tested. Of course, Prabhupada said 1 minute is enough to become completely Krishna conscious. Technically, yes. Technically, yes. Provided we come with that kind of surrender. But that surrender is very, very rare. Very rare. Like, for example, Dhruv Maharaj. He took 6 months, which is considered extremely fast, blazing fast. 6 months. But Prabhupada said 1 minute. So is Prabhupada exaggerating? Not at all. Principle wise, that is correct. It's because we hold back, we don't surrender. We cling on to agency. We want to be the doer. So that's the reason why it takes time. And for us to unconditionally surrender, it just takes the proper use of our will, of our free will. But we don't use it properly. We abuse it. We try to be the controller. Even if we're trying to become a devotee, we want to take it cautiously. We want to, um, you know, we want to take our time. We want to take our, you know, um, usually that's how it is, because one is not expected to be extraordinarily surrendering in one moment. So for if we have to be pragmatic about it, for the vast majority, 99.9999999%, it's going to be a gradual process of elevation. So, in order to spiritualize ourselves, in order to be able to, and okay, we will read the purport. In that it is said, it is not even a devotee's desire to want to see the universal form. He's not even interested in that. So let's actually read the purport. So one cannot have the divine vision without becoming divine. In other words, those who have divine vision can also see like Arjuna. So here again, there is a principle, that is, it is not an exclusive thing for Arjuna. It is anyone who is qualified with that criteria, he can see. So it depends on the qualification, and of course the mercy. Qualification cannot come without mercy. So if one has a qualification, what is the qualification? That he is given the mercy by a pure devotee. That means a pure devotee has introduced such a person to Krishna and enlightened him about Krishna and brought him to surrender to Krishna. So that's the guru's role. And then the disciple himself, he has to take to the instructions of the guru and the process of surrender in all earnestness, and take full advantage of the mercy that he was handed, and actually make his life successful. That's when he becomes qualified. If the guru is qualified, sometimes, in ISKCON, there is this argument like, Prabhupada made so many devotees. So if there is not one person, because we are proponents of the Ritvik system of initiations, which was instituted by Srila Prabhupada, and we have presented that extensively. Now, the contention in ISKCON, for example, is that, are you saying that Prabhupada was not pure enough to make even one pure devotee who can become a guru and initiate? Is Prabhupada impotent? Is that what you're saying? That's the question they put to us. But that's besides the point. Prabhupada is potent. He can make unlimited numbers of pure devotees. But are we fertile enough? Are we taking up in all earnestness? Because it's not the guru's responsibility alone. It has to be also the disciples' surrender. So ultimately, we have our free will. Prabhupada said, when you see the flock of birds flying in the sky, there is one leader bird who is heading the way, and all the other birds are following it. But it is not that they're not doing anything. The leader bird is showing the way and flapping its wings. The follower bird is flapping its wings and following the way shown by the leader. So he has to flap his wings. So if the devotee does not flap his wings, or he does not apply himself to the process in all earnestness, then he's not going to get the result, even though his guru may be the pure devotee. For example, Prabhupada said that all his god brothers fell short of, and there was a huge chaos in his spiritual master's institution, Gaudiya Math. Especially after the disappearance of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there was a huge turmoil in the movement. And Prabhupada is one pure devotee who, um, what is that, executed the order of his spiritual master and took it to the world. Now, can we say that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was so important that he could only make one pure devotee in the whole world to all people who preached? He only could make one. So, it is not upon Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur on how many devotees um, can become. I mean, he made, of course, so many devotees, but who took his order and took the movement to the next level? That is, of course, Prabhupada. But we should not misunderstand the potency of a pure devotee. It's not that everybody becomes pure devotee just by coming in contact with a pure devotee. We can become a pure devotee only in the contact of a pure devotee, but just being in contact with the pure devotee does not necessarily make us a pure devotee. We have to rise to the standards given by the pure devotee. Then only can we climb to that standard. Otherwise, we can't. We can't. So we cannot. There is a foolish argument to make that, oh, is Prabhupada not potent enough that he could not make more pure devotees or any pure devotees? No, he can make. He is potent enough. But are we a potent disciple? Are we a fertile disciple? So the seed of bhaktilata bij is sown, but is the land also has to be fertile in order for the seed to germinate and become a tree, right? So are we fertile in our hearts? Is our heart fertile? So that's what matters also. Otherwise, seeds on barrel land, you can't blame the seed, you have to blame the land. So that's the disciplic devotees that Prabhupada is calling. Disciplic devotees does not mean that we just come in a disciplic succession. We also have to take to the process fully. The Bhagavad Gita gives the description of the universal form. Although this description was unknown to everyone before Arjuna, now one can have some idea of the Vishwarupa after this incident. Those who are actually divine can see the universal form of the Lord. But one cannot be divine without being a pure devotee of Krishna. The devotees, however, who are actually in the divine nature and who have divine vision, are not very much interested in seeing the universal form of the Lord. See, this is the other thing. So, we cannot see this form. Those who are actually divine can see the universal form of the Lord. One cannot be divine without being a pure devotee. The pure devotees, however, who are actually in the divine nature and who have divine vision, are not very much interested in seeing the universal form. Isn't that a paradox? Isn't that a how come it's like this? As described in the previous verse, Arjuna desired to see the four-handed form of Lord Krishna as Vishnu, and he was actually afraid of the universal form. See, it is one thing to know the opulences and the grandeur of the Lord, but then the grandeur it stunts the flow of pure devotional feelings, and this is very high subject matter, by the way. It's not to be, oh, then I should not be interested in the Lord's opulences. No, we should be. That's the reason why Bhagavatam was spoken. In fact, Dashamasya Vishuddhyartham. Why the 10 topics of Bhagavatam are described, and in that 10 topics, first 2.10.1 and then 2.10.2. See, Sukadeva Goswami, Sri Sukha Uvacha, Atra Sargo Visargascha, Sthanam Poshanam Utayah, Manvantare Shanukatha Nirodho Muktirashrayah. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, subcreation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of manus, the signs of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the Samam Bonam. Now, the Samam Bonam is Krishna himself, Ashraya, the shelter of everything. So, if we have to understand Krishna, we have to understand the opulences of Krishna. And the opulences of Krishna, here, creation, subcreation, planetary systems, the rest, in fact, everything other than, no, the protection by the Lord, the signs of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, these may look a little bit more spiritual, but creation, subcreation, these are matters pertaining to the material world. Why are we studying these things in the Bhagavatam? When the Bhagavatam is called Amalam Puranam, the spotless Purana, why are we studying material subjects? No, they are not material. Material is when we dissociate something from the Lord. Then it becomes material. In our head only it is like that. So the sense of separation from the Lord is Maya. In reality, there is no separation. Aham sarvasya prabhava. Like if I think that this table or this camera or anything, this computer, this internet is separate from the Lord, that thinking of mine is Maya. The internet or the camera or anything, that is not Maya. It is still Krishna's energy. It has eternal relationship with Krishna. All material energies, everything comes from Krishna. Material, spiritual, everything. We ourselves. So the misconception that we have that something is not related to Krishna, that misconception is what Maya is, the effect of Maya. So when these opulences of the creation, the entire universal cosmic situation, and how the Lord maintains everything, if we understand it in relation with the Lord, with Krishna, that is actually spiritual. That's why it's Amalam Puranam. So such study of the opulences is necessary for us to understand the real position of Krishna, because it has to be very clear in our minds that we can never equal Krishna. Krishna is always great. Krishna is always infinite. That we can only know when we understand his greatness. Like Krishna said, Janma karma chame divyam evam yovetti tattvataha. Tattvataha means in reality, in truth, in depth, the extent, to the extent possible, to the furthest extent possible, we should understand Krishna. And when I say furthest extent possible, it is the furthest extent that has been revealed to us. At our level, we are revealed, Krishna revealed to us a certain level of knowledge. For example, the demigods, they have, they know things that we don't know. Far too many things that we do not know. Even when we are devotees, for example, even when we read Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita and all that, still we do not know many things. More are described in the higher planets. That's why it is said the whole Vedic scriptures are 1 billion verses in heavenly planets. 1 billion verses. Here, all the Puranas and everything combined together is just like 500,000, 525,000 verses. Vyasadeva wrote. So, what is 500,000 and what is 1 billion? Unimaginable proportions. So, there is so much more detail. And even that 1 billion is nothing. Because Anantadev, the Lord Ananta, he is glorifying, he is describing these, he's doing his discourses since time immemorial. And there is no calculation on when he's going to stop. He cannot stop. Unlimitedly, he's glorifying. So, Lord's glorification is not even limited to 1 billion. 1 billion is nothing. What is 1 billion? In understanding the Lord, we can never at all, at any time, understand the Lord. And this has been said in many ways in a few different verses, but I'll just show this one. 1047, Brahma himself is saying this. Gunatmanasте gunan vimatum hitavatirnasya ka ishiresya kalena yairva vimitah sukalpair bhupam shavah khemihi kadyubhasa. In time, learned philosophers or scientists might be able to count all the atoms of the earth. We cannot. But even though we may become so advanced that we can actually count, if we come to that stage, or they can count the particles of snow. Nobody can do that. I mean, these are uncountable things. We cannot do that. But even if, the slim chance that one can do this, or perhaps even the shining molecules radiating from the sun, all these are infinite things which are being said. Yeah. the stars and other luminaries. But among these learned men, who could possibly count the unlimited transcendental qualities possessed by you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who have descended onto the surface of the earth for the benefit of all living entities? There's no chance. That's why it is said in the Brahma Samhita, Panthastu koti shatavatsara sampragamyo vayorathapi manaso munipumgavanam soapyasti yat prapadasimnya vichintya tattve govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Koti shatavatsara. This is 1 billion 1 billion years. Koti is 100 million and Shata is another 100. So, signifying or pointing to infinity. Yeah? Infinite time can be spent by mental speculation or space travel or whatever. We can never reach the end, or we can never even begin to understand the glories of yet. Sopyasti yet prapada simni avichintya tattve. We know what is prapada? Pada means feet. Prapada means the beginning of the feet, which is the toes, the toe nails, in fact. Sopi, so api, saha api, asti, yat prapada simni avichinta tattva. Even the toenails of the Supreme Lord will be avichinta tattva. We cannot conceive of even the toenails. We cannot even begin to understand the feet, and not only just the feet, the beginning of the feet. The toenails we cannot even reach by such exercise of intellectual or physical or whichever faculties we may have. And therefore, the only way we can actually understand anything is by the revealed knowledge, whatever is given by Krishna. And the reason for studying the revealed knowledge is not really to understand these things. Oh, how the universe is constructed, or what is the speed of the sun or the earth, or what is the orbit. These details are mentioned to an extent that we can appreciate, or we may not even be able to appreciate all that much. But the focus is actually not on the calculations and all these technical details. The focus is on the relationship of these gigantic and absolutely fantastic creation of the cosmos with the Lord. To understand how the Lord is always the cause for this creation, and how in every part of not just the creative process but also the maintenance and the annihilation, nothing can happen without the personal supervision or the indirect supervision of the Lord. So the Lord, without Krishna, nothing can work. So which is the exact opposite of what we learn in our current academic or schooling system. We try to learn so many subjects like science, sociology, language, technical studies, whatever. All of these are learned in a secular way, without God. There's no mention of God. That's relegated to an optional faith you can have if you want. That's up to you. But here we are teaching you science, like experimental, provable science, which is fact based. That is, we all know there is no God. You want to pray to it, to someone, go ahead and do it. Don't bring it to fact based, objective reality that we are going to teach you in the school. That's the attitude. That's the attitude. Our education in the school, without doubt, makes us an atheist. It requires extraordinary amount of influence of culture and other things in life that, even the scientists, actually, I do not understand how it is they are atheists. It's actually foolish to be an atheist, because if they really see the vast extent, you cannot with a sane mind denounce or deny the existence of a supreme intelligence. Just can't. how much order there is, how can it just be chance? It's just very foolish. If one goes that deep, it should lead them to know there has to be a God, because it's just impossible that these things can happen just organically. So, for the simple minded, Prabhupada said, even a rose flower, any small thing can remind him of God. But for the crooked, the entire arrangement of the cosmos is still insufficient to convince him of the existence of God. So, Naradham, Namam Dushkritano Mudha Prapadyante Naradhama, Mayaya Paharita Jnana, Asurim Bhavam Ashrita. So, these classes of people, they cannot surrender to Krishna. They will never surrender to Krishna, even though Krishna's opulences are everywhere. Therefore, Bhagavatam, what Bhagavatam does is, we should see all those in relation with Krishna. They still remain achintya. It's not that devotees understand everything. No, they understand what needs to be understood in order for them to become Krishna conscious. The focus is to be Krishna conscious. It's not to really understand everything. We can never understand everything. We can far from it. Okay. Now going back. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you that 2.10.2 before we come back. Oh. दशमस्य विशुद्ध्यर्थं नवानाम् इह लक्षणं वर्णयन्ति महात्मानः श्रुतेनार्थेन चाञ्जसा. To isolate the transcendence of the Samam Bonam means to isolate Krishna. The symptoms of the rest are described sometimes by Vedic evidence, sometimes by direct explanation, and sometimes by summary explanations given by the great sages. In order to understand the 10th subject, Krishna, we need to understand his energies. Just him without anything, because he is Vishesha. What is that? Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham. His beauty is unique and lovely. He has unique beauty. So every of his characteristics, every one of his characteristics are unique and special. So those characteristics are exhibited by his energies. So if we try to study the energies with the view to study Krishna, to understand the position of Krishna, that is the proper thing to do. That should be the goal. So now going back. Now, reading the purport here. The devotees, however, who are actually in the divine nature and who have divine vision are not very much interested in seeing the universal form of the Lord. As described in the previous verse, Arjuna desired to see the four-handed form of Lord Krishna as Vishnu, and he was actually afraid of the universal form. In this verse, there are some significant words. Just like Veda Yajnadhyayanai, which refers to studying Vedic literature and the subject matter of sacrificial regulations. Veda refers to all kinds of Vedic literature, such as the four Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva, and the 18 Puranas, the Upanishads, and the Vedanta Sutra. One can study these at home or anywhere else. Similarly, there are, of course, under the guidance of the Guru. We cannot just study them independently. Under the guidance of Guru. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. We can only understand the Veda if we have an Acharya, if we have a bona fide Acharya in the disciplic succession, the Parampara, Sampradaya, then we can have proper understanding. Otherwise, no. One can study this at home or anywhere else. Similarly, there are sutras, Kalpa Sutras and Mimamsa Sutras for studying the method of sacrifice. Dana, he refers to charity which is offered to a suitable party, such as those who are engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. Similarly, pious activities refers to the Agnihotra and the prescribed duties of the different castes. See? And the voluntary acceptance of some bodily pains is called tapasya. So one can perform all these, can accept bodily penances, give charity, study the Vedas, etc. But unless he is a devotee like Arjuna, it is not possible to see that universal form. So this is very, very important. So this is explained. न साधयति मां योगो न सांख्यं धर्म उद्धव न स्वाध्यायस्तपस्त्यागो यथा bhaktirmamorjita. My dear Uddhava, the unalloyed devotional service rendered to me by my devotees brings me under their control. I cannot thus be controlled by those engaged in mystic yoga, Sankhya philosophy, pious work, Vedic study, austerity, or renunciation. Although these are very exalted things, pure devotion. So, what is pure devotion? If Vedic study pure devotion? Yes, only when it is done devotionally. That's why the 9 processes. Hearing is one of the pure devotional activities. But it should not be coupled with speculation. It cannot be jnana yoga. It has to be bhakti yoga. Just hearing. And understanding, of course. It is not that we do not question and clarify our understanding. That should be done. Arjuna did that. Uddhava did that. If you see in the Bhagavatam, Vaktaram Prachakam Shrotrims. So there are always the inquirers, the answerers, and the listeners, the audience. So these 3 classes of people will always be there. In fact, Vedanta Sutra starts with Brahma Jignasa. We have to have inquiry. So inquiry is not challenge. Inquiry is the beginning of clarification for our own understanding. So we have to challenge our own understanding. That is inquiry. We are not inquiring to figure out or to evaluate the Shastra. No. Shastra is, Vedic scripture is perfect. That is the axiomatic truth that we adhere to. It's an axiom that it is true. It is Veda Narayana Sakshat. So Narayana, the Vedas are non-different from him, and so they are perfect. Now, if I do not understand some statement, and if it doesn't seem logical to me, some Vedic statement, then the problem is with me not understanding that statement, but not, it's not the problem with the Shastra. It's a gap in my understanding. So when I inquire, it should be, how am I to understand this? I am not implying that this doesn't make sense, or it may not make sense to me. That does not mean it's not correct. It does not make sense to me because my understanding is somehow stunted. What can I do to accommodate this understanding in me? What needs to change in me so that I can accommodate this understanding? Because now it is not fitting in my tiny brain. So I have to expand my understanding. And that expansion is basically to come to terms with the achintya nature of Krishna. We have to understand that Krishna is achintya, and things can be possible that may not be immediately evident, in ways that are not immediately evident. So we should be open to that. For example, I always give this example. Like Krishna said, Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam. He said, I spoke this same science, Arjuna, to the sun god before. Then he was going, in this way, it was handed down, and the parampara, it was coming down, and over the course of time, it was lost, and therefore I'm repeating to you this science again, Arjuna. And he was going on, then Arjuna interrupted him. Wait a minute, what did you say? You spoke to the sun god, but you are my age. How is it possible? It would have been millions and millions of years back you would have spoken to him. But you are my contemporary. What are you talking about? Then, and he said this word, you see, katham etad vijaniyam. He said, he did not say, I don't think that's valid. How did you speak? I don't think you spoke. He did not say that. He said this. Arjuna uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvatah katham etad vijaniyam tvamadau proktavan iti. Katham etad vijaniyam. That is the very important or very crucial way of asking. You see, katham means how shall I understand. You see this word to word here? Katham etad vijaniyam. How shall I understand this? It's not, I'm not, so Arjuna is not saying, Krishna, you said you spoke to the sun god. Don't lie. You did not do that. You're my age. It would have been millions of years ago. Don't talk nonsense. He did not say that. How am I to understand this? It doesn't fit in my logical brain. So I need to expand my understanding in order for that to fit in. So then Krishna actually explains that. You see, the sun god, Arjuna said, sun god Vivasvan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand? How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? So this is the proper way of inquiry. This is pariprashnena. This is submissive inquiry. Arjuna did not hold back. Submissive inquiry does not mean that you don't ask tough questions. Questions which are pertinent but borderline challenging. No, you are asking those questions because that thought is challenging your acceptance of the statement of Krishna. So you have to break that. So for that reason, we have to ask questions. The sun god Vivasvan is senior Baba to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? Then when Krishna gave the answer, Arjuna accepted it. You see? Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacha Arjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetha parantapa. Both you and I have passed many births. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. So I did this in a previous birth and I completely remember what I did, which is completely different from our experience. We forget what we ate day before yesterday for breakfast. Forget about last life. I don't even remember what I ate for breakfast 2 days ago or even yesterday. I don't know. I have to stretch my memory to even think of what did I eat. That's our memory. So it's unimaginable for us that if somebody can remember something that he did maybe 20 births ago. Krishna remembers everything. Vedaham samatitani janmani tavacharjuna tanyaham veda sarvani nattam vetta parantava. Krishna says in 726, I know everything, past, present, and future. So we cannot accommodate that. So when Krishna said this, then Arjuna, oh, okay, now I understand. So that is a good question we might have, right? And we would, if we had a chance, we might want to ask. Or sometimes we don't even know what to ask. But Arjuna asked him for us already, so that Krishna can clarify this for us. So in fact, Arjuna already is a friend of Krishna and he knows Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead and everything. But he asked these questions so that it can be clear for us. He's also thinking of all the future population who would have these questions. So he had the opportunity to directly ask Krishna. So he just asked him. He interrupted Krishna's discourse by asking that question. So we should question. But that study, questioning, is to expand our understanding, to accommodate the statements of Vedas, not to challenge and reject those which cannot fit into our tiny Dr. Frog well. So this is unalloyed devotion. So of course, study of the Vedas is very important. Vedic study is very important. When Krishna says, "Oh, I can only be reached by unalloyed devotion, not even by Vedic study," we should not misunderstand that, taking to mean that, oh, we should not do austerity, we should not have renunciation, we should not do Vedic study, we should only have unalloyed devotion, devoid of these things. No. We have to take to these things in the devotional way. So we have to read. That's why you see, why is it said like this in this purport? (25.278). I'll go to the purport. See, Prabhupada says all the devotees connected with the Krishna consciousness movement must read all the books that have been translated, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal blissful life of transcendental pleasure. See? See that? So we must read, and Prabhupada made book distribution the biggest service, the most exalted service. He based his movement. Prabhupada said books are the basis of our movement. He built the movement on books because the books have all the philosophical conclusions and the practical directions on how to apply those in our life. Everything is there in the books. So unless we read them, how am I even going to be introduced to bhakti? It's not a sentimental, feeling, feel good emotion. That's not bhakti. Emotions are there, yes, but based on true relationship and true commitment and surrender to Krishna. So it has to be guided by knowledge. Otherwise, our emotions are misplaced. So bhakti means Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatrike Vidham Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhakti Utpatayaiva Kalpate. It has to be in accordance with Vedic regulations and rules and regulations, scriptural rules. Tasmat Shastram Pramanante Karya Karya Vyavasthito. So we have to know what is duty, what is not duty, because bhakti means duty. First of all, we have to execute the order of the spiritual master. That's our prime and only duty. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittete Korea Aikya Arna Koriho Mane Asha. See? So Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, that should be our life and soul. So, that's how we should understand these things. Now going back, let's finish that purport. So unless he is a devotee like Arjuna, it is not possible to see that universal form. Those who are impersonalists are also imagining that they are seeing the universal form of the Lord, but from Bhagavad Gita we understand that the impersonalists are not devotees. Therefore, they are unable to see the universal form of the Lord. So we should be guided by this statement. If somebody is saying something, no, you are saying that is your bookish knowledge, but I have seen. I'm sorry, this book knowledge is not just any book. It's Krishna's words against your words. I'm going to have my faith in Krishna's words. If your words coincide with Krishna's words, I'm going to accept your words. Whether you say it in a book format or whether you utter it out of your lips, how does it make a difference? They are words, these are yours and also words. It's words versus words. So it's not like some bookish knowledge and now I have practically seen God. This is rubbish knowledge, rubbish talking. So we have to be very clear that Krishna is speaking. It's not just any bookish knowledge, like theoretical, impractical knowledge. I have practical experience. That's not correct. Why it is said then Shruti Smriti Purana Adi Pancharatra Vidham Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhakti Utpataya Eva Kalpate. Why? It has to be based on Shruti and Smriti and Purana. Purana Adi Pancharatra. So all these scriptures are important to guide us. So impersonalists cannot see. There are many persons who create incarnations. They falsely claim an ordinary human to be an incarnation, but this is all foolishness. We should follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, there is no possibility of attaining perfect spiritual knowledge. This is the thing. We have to read Bhagavad Gita and follow the principles that are stated therein. Otherwise, there's just no possibility. Although Bhagavad Gita is considered the preliminary study of the science of God, still it is so perfect that it enables one to distinguish what is what. True. And especially when we hear it from the right person, from the pure devotee. Otherwise, I have seen Acharya, for example, the word Acharya is translated by, Mayavadis and not pure devotees. They may have devotional inclination, pious Hindus. They translate Acharya as a teacher. Unless you have a teacher, you cannot understand. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. That's how they. That is very vague. How do you qualify a teacher? Who is an Acharya? Acharya is one who teaches by Achara. Achar means by his example. And what is his example? That he is completely self-controlled, like Nectar of Instruction, verse 1. That is the qualification of a guru who can. So that is an acharya who has completely controlled all his senses, and such a person is only engaged in Krishna's service, and he is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So just to say teacher, that is not, that is, there's no qualification there. So we have to understand these words from the pure devotee. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. If you are only taught by the Acharya, that's why it is said, Shvetashvatara Upanishad 623. Yasya deve para yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha gurau tasyaite kathitha hyartha prakashante mahatmana. Those who have implicit faith in Krishna and the spiritual master, for them, for such a person, the Vedic knowledge will be revealed. So Bhagavad Gita as it is, that's very important. So, reading on, the followers of a pseudo incarnation may say that they have also seen the transcendental incarnation of God, the universal form, but that is unacceptable because it is clearly stated here that unless one becomes a devotee of Krishna, one cannot see the universal form of God. Not just universal form, any form of God. Of course, as Archa Vigraha, he is visible to everyone, but then the true essence of Archa Vigraha we cannot understand if we don't hear about him from a pure devotee. There's a beautiful Bengali verse that I read. Bhaktivinoda Thakur quoted it, and it was written by Jagadananda Pandit in Prema Vivarta. So he said, Asadhu sange bhai, Krishna nama nahi loy, nahi hoy. Asadhu sange bhai, Krishna nama nahi hoy. Namakshar bahiraye, batu nama ka bate nama ka bhunoy. Namakshar bahiraye. So, when we are chanting with offenses, when we associate with non-devotees, even if we chant Krishna's name, we are actually not chanting Krishna's name. Namakshara only we are chanting. The alphabets, akshara means the alphabets. We are only uttering the alphabets that constitute the holy name, but we're actually not chanting the holy name. That is such a subtle point. That's such a fine point. Because we are only concerned with the external sound of the holy name, but we are not at all realized to the point where we understand the non-difference between the name and the Lord. So we don't really realize the greatness of the holy name of Krishna. So Namakshar Bahirai Bate Namaka Bhunoy. So similarly, even when we see the deities, we may see the deity as a stone and not as Krishna. A representation of Krishna maybe, but not Krishna. So this is all wrong understanding. But we are unable to fully, at least axiomatically, we should accept, even though we are not there yet. We should accept this is Krishna and the holy name is Krishna. And with that, we have to have reverence and respect. That's how we get respect. And eventually, it will be revealed to us. There's a beautiful story which happened in the beginning days of Prabhupada's preaching in the United States. So, Gargamuni and Brahmananda, they are two brothers, before they were initiated. So, they were attending, and I think it was Brahmananda who was more surrendering to Prabhupada. And Gargamuni was coming, but he was a little bit skeptical. I think I may get the names wrong, one or the other. So after the kirtan, when they have kirtan in that 26th Avenue in New York, and then after that, people would bow down to Prabhupada. Premadhvani prayers, Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajaka, all that. So, and after the class, they used to bow down. So when one of them, I think Gargamuni, let's just for the narration's sake, I will just say Gargamuni Prabhu. It could have been the other one as well, Brahmananda Swami, I don't know. So Gargamuni Prabhu, he was not initiated, of course, at that time was not initiated. And he wasn't bowing down. He was standing and he was just seeing. And his brother wanted him to actually also respect and bow down and everything. Then, so separately they had the conversation between themselves, and then he was saying, "You should bow down. You should not. It's disrespectful. You're just standing there, not bowing down." He said, "No, it's not that I don't want to bow down, but I want to see. I want to see that I'm bowing down to the right thing, the right person, or the right culture, the right movement, the right knowledge, the right everything. Am I submitting myself to the right thing, or I want to know first before I can bow down?" Sounds like a logical argument, right? So this Brahmananda Prabhu, he brought him to Prabhupada, and he asked this question that he's not against bowing down, or but he wants to know before he is bowing down that he's bowing down to the right thing. Prabhupada said, "You bow down and then you will know." So you surrender first, then you will know. Not that you figure out, okay, now I'm confident, now I surrender. Well, there is a pariksha. There's this verse. Guru Lakshana, Shishya Lakshana, Dohar Parikshana. So, your book, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying to Sanatana Goswami, your book should describe the characteristics of the bona fide guru and the bona fide disciple. Then, before accepting the spiritual master, one can be assured of the spiritual master's position. Similarly, the spiritual master can also be assured of the disciple's position. So, there is a concept, there is a part of this where I need to test whether I'm surrendering to the right guru. I should not blindly. That is correct. But how are we going to identify a pure devotee? We cannot. We cannot. 2339, yes. See, जार चित्ते कृष्ण प्रेमा करय उदय तार वाक्य क्रिया मुद्रा विज्ञान बुझाय. Even the most learned man cannot understand the words, activities, and symptoms of a person situated in love of God. See? So even the most learned man, these people were who? They were hippies. Well, not learned man. Even the most learned man cannot understand the words, activities, and symptoms of a person situated in love of Godhead. So how are we going to understand the Prabhupada's position? So in this case, at least there is some faith that, okay, he does not cheat me that much, yes. So he's speaking sense, and things will not be revealed to me more if I don't surrender. So I should surrender to the process. I should surrender. And in this case, Prabhupada is a pure devotee. And from a pure devotee, we will understand what is the criterion of a pure devotee. Because we don't have a rubric against which to check whether this person is a pure devotee or not. I don't even know what to check against. What are the criteria I should look for? I don't even know. I may think a big long beard would be, yeah, that looks like a sadhu. No. So we may judge in our own way. So what is the rubric? So we should understand that. So because we don't, and the rubric to understand a pure devotee can only be known from another pure devotee. A pure devotee has to, we don't know how to, what is the qualification of a pure devotee unless Prabhupada told us. There's no way we could have found out. So it is not actually depending on our capacity. Guru Krishna Prasadapai Bhaktilata Bij. It is by the mercy of Guru and Krishna that we get the seed of bhakti. And then we should, once we have a little knowledge from the pure devotee, then we should know, okay, this is the criterion. And then I should be informed by that now. Eventually, when that knowledge becomes mainstream in society, then people will know what is the standard against which an acharya has to be checked against. Otherwise, nobody has any knowledge. Nobody has any knowledge. So that's very dangerous. So the point here I'm trying to make is, once we surrender, then things will be revealed more and more. Surrender, when we read, we should surrender to what we're reading. We should accept. Sarvameta dhritam manya yanmam vadasi keshava. That's how Arjuna accepted. Right? Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktam Vidurdevana Danava. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. So I totally accept. Sarvameta Dhritam Manye Yanmam Madhusikeshu. That's how we should accept. That does not mean we don't question. We question to increase our understanding of what is being told to us, but whatever is told, we will accept. And with logical reflection as well. Not just blindly accept anything anybody says. No. Reading on. So one first of all has to become a pure devotee of Krishna, then he can claim that he can show the universal form of what he has seen. A devotee of Krishna cannot accept false incarnations or followers of false incarnations. Classic example. What is that story? 2099? Balabhadra, 1899, yeah. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a personal servant, Balabhadra Bhattacharya, and as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling, he was his assistant, and the villagers were excited about something that was happening. Every night they say that, oh, Krishna dancing on Kaliya snake, that Leela is being shown every night. Oh, everybody comes there. Oh, wow, everybody is talking about it has become the talk of the town that, oh, there is an incarnation of Krishna that is being manifest, and every night people are being able to see. So actually the reality of it was that in the ocean, there was the boatman who was going out in the night to fish, and he was having a lamp. And these people were thinking that the boat is the Kaliya snake and the boatman is silhouette. He thought that was Krishna, and the lamp is the jewel. So Krishna dancing on the snake in the water, they thought like that. Everybody was excited. Everybody was going to see that. Yes, I have seen Krishna and Kaliya, Kaliya Daman Leela. So this Bhattacharya, Balabhadra Bhattacharya, who was personal servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was enamored by such descriptions, and he also went to see. And then he came back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said this, Bhattacharya tabe kohe Prabhur charane, Agnya deho jai kare Krishna darshane. So he requested that he also wants to go and see the Krishna. He want to take darshan of Krishna on the water. Oh, everybody's talking about it. I also want to take darshan. Please give me blessings. You see how at that time Balabhadra Bhattacharya placed a request at the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, please give me permission to go see Lord Krishna directly. Purport. The puzzled people who visited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were actually seeing Lord Krishna when they were seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But they were mistaken in thinking that Lord Krishna had come to Kaliya lake. They all said that they had seen Krishna directly performing his pastimes on the hoods of the serpent Kaliya, and that the jewels of Kaliya's hoods were blazing brilliantly. Because they were speculating with their imperfect knowledge, they saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an ordinary human being and a boatman's light in the lake as Krishna. One must see things as they are through the mercy of a spiritual master. Otherwise, if one tries to see Krishna directly, he may mistake an ordinary man for Krishna or Krishna for an ordinary man. Everyone has to see Krishna according to the verdict of the Vedic literatures presented by the self-realized spiritual master. So important. A sincere person is able to see Krishna through the transparent via medium of Sri Gurudev, the spiritual master. Again, I repeat that. It was an important sentence. A sincere person is able to see Krishna through the transparent via medium of Sri Gurudev, the spiritual master. Unless one is enlightened by the knowledge given by the spiritual master, he cannot see things as they are, even though he remains constantly with the spiritual master. So one can be near the spiritual master all he wants, but he cannot see Krishna if he is not going to be enlightened by the knowledge of the spiritual master. This is why Prabhupada said, read my books. It's not enough. Devotee association means not just to come in the proximity, physical proximity of devotees. That's not association. Association means to hear and to be guided, to mold our life according to those instructions. That is association. So This incident at Kalyadaha is very instructive for those eager to advance in Krishna consciousness. Now, what happened? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what he did? How did he respond? तबे तारे कहे प्रभु चापड़ मारिया मूर्खेर वाक्य मूर्ख होइला पंडित होइया. Chapad Maria means nice tight slap he got from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Balabhadra Bhattacharya asked to see Krishna at Kalyadaha, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mercifully slapped him, saying, "You are a learned scholar, but you have become a fool, being influenced by the statements of other fools." See? Maya is so strong that even a person like Balabhadra Bhattacharya, who was constantly staying with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was influenced by the words of fools. He wanted to see Krishna directly by going to Kalyadaha, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being the original spiritual master, would not allow his servant to fall into such foolishness. He therefore chastised him, slapping him just to bring him to a real sense of Krishna consciousness. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Krishna kene darshan dibe kalikale, nija bhrame murkha loka kare kolahale. Why would Krishna appear in the age of Kali? Foolish people who are mistaken are simply causing agitation and making a tumult. So this purport is important. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's first statement, Krishna kene darshan dibe kalikale, refers to the scriptures. According to scripture, Krishna appears in Dwapar Yuga, but he never appears as himself in Kali Yuga. Rather, he appears in Kali Yuga in a covered form. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32, Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam. Krishna appears in the age of Kali in the garb of a devotee, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who always associates with his internal soldiers, Sri Advaita Prabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Srivas Prabhu, and Gadadhar Prabhu. And the other incarnation of Krishna, who is Buddha, who is not, of course, he preached another philosophy, but even he, although his avatar of Krishna, he came in a covered form. He did not announce himself as God. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is primarily the incarnation in Kali Yuga, he also did not assert himself as God. He came as a devotee. Bhaktavataram, Bhaktakyam. So Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam, Bhaktarupa Swarupakam. Bhaktarupa Swarupa. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhaktavataram is Nityananda Prabhu. So in this way, they came as Bhaktarupa and Bhaktavatar. Or in the Buddha avatar, he came as an atheist, non-believer in Vedic principles. But he also covered himself. He did not proclaim that he is God. That's why Buddhists do not accept Buddha as God. They take him as an enlightened person, but not God. You can become Buddha, they think, an enlightened person. And because he was the first one and who showed the path, therefore they worship him as a person who showed this path, but not as God. So coming back, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So although Balabhadra Bhattacharya was personally serving Lord Krishna in his role as a devotee, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he mistook Lord Krishna for an ordinary man. He considered Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an ordinary man, and an ordinary man for Lord Krishna. You see, because he did not follow the rules set down by Shastra and Guru. Very, very important point, right? So we have to understand Krishna through Shastra and Guru, not according to our imaginations and our hallucinations. And this verse 20.352, Prabhu kohe anyavatar shastra dware jani kalite avatar toiche shastra vakya mani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, as in other ages, an incarnation is accepted according to the directions of the Shastras. In this age of Kali, an incarnation of God should be accepted in that way. So purport, Prabhupada says this point. According to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is the way an incarnation should be accepted. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Chityate Korya Aikya. One should accept a thing as genuine by studying the words of saintly people, the spiritual master, and the Shastra. The actual center is the Shastra, the revealed scripture. If a spiritual master does not speak according to the revealed scripture, he is not to be accepted. Similarly, if a saintly person does not speak according to the Shastra, he is not a saintly person. The Shastra is the center for all. Unfortunately, at the present moment, people do not refer to the Shastras, therefore they accept rascals as incarnations, and consequently they have made incarnations into a very cheap thing. Intelligent people who follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions and the instructions of the Acharya the bona fide spiritual master, will not accept a pretender as an incarnation of God. In Kali Yuga, the only incarnation is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Imitation incarnations take advantage of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in this way, and introduce their rascaldom as religious process. You see. So, in this way we can understand. So the only way to see Krishna is through devotion, and such devotion should be guided by Shastra and the bona fide spiritual master. In our case, Srila Prabhupada. We will be eternally safe if we take to that course of action. Otherwise, we're asking for trouble and we're wasting our time, and we will be cheating, we will be cheated, and we'll be committing offenses. It's not good. So I'll stop it here. And any questions or comments, we will go through them. Yes, 11, 29, 22, the processes of supreme intelligence. Okay, here is a question. Mind tricks us when we are in the way of surrender through using our free will. How should we tackle from that? What standards should we have to achieve? What standards we should have to achieve surrender? So the first thing is, we should accept a spiritual master. Surrendering means to not follow the mind. We're always following our mind. So instead, we should follow the instructions of the spiritual master. And the spiritual master comes in 2 forms, 3 forms, 4, but 3 are the main. So, Vartma Pradarshaka Guru, Diksha Guru, Shiksha Guru, Chaitya Guru. So, the Chaitya Guru is the Paramatma in the heart. He guides us through the proper Guru, Acharya. And Acharya, the Diksha Guru, is the one who gives us divine knowledge and gives us the initiation. Particularly gives divine knowledge, because Chakshudan diloje janme janme prabhushe divya jnana hriday prakashita. In fact, Diksha means divyam jnanam yato dadyat kuryat papasya sankshayam tatha diksheti sa prokta deshikaihi tattva kovidaihi. This is from the Bhakti Sandarbha of Jiva Goswami. Diksha means, it's an acronym. Di and Ksha. Di stands for divya jnana and Ksha stands for kshapayati. So divya jnana, transcendental knowledge. Kshapayati means papasya sankshayam. This kshayam means the termination, the complete termination for good, once and for all sinful reactions. So diksha means the transcendental knowledge, reception of transcendental knowledge, and the destruction of our sinful reactions. When that happens, that is called diksha. So a spiritual master, he takes away our sinful reactions at the time of initiation, and especially through divine knowledge. So that person is the Diksha Guru. Then Shiksha Guru can be many. Diksha Guru should be one. Shiksha Gurus can be many, and they instruct on the basis of the Diksha Guru. They repeat and guide the devotee according to the instructions of the Diksha Guru. So that is Shiksha Guru. So in this way, we have to accept the order of the spiritual master, the Diksha Guru, and the Shiksha Gurus who guide us how to follow the order of the Diksha Guru. So we should, and ekeha kurunandana, vyavasaya atmika buddhir ekeha. We should be single pointed. We should have single pointed attention on the order of the spiritual master. The order of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is to preach and distribute books and make devotees. So we should apply ourselves. Prabhupada showed us how to be a proper disciple by being a proper disciple to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. How seriously and how diligently he took up the order of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and did what he did, right? So he is showing us how to be a disciple. So in the beginning, we should do the main things. Okay, what are the main things? Following the 4 principles, chanting 16 rounds, and see 588 purport. First sentence. I'll just read only the first sentence, not the whole thing. From this, we can understand how we have to be very cautious in executing our spiritual duties by observing the rules and regulations and regularly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If we neglect doing this, we will eventually fall down. We must rise early in the morning, bathe, attend Mangalarti, worship the deities, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, study the Vedic literatures, and follow all the rules prescribed by the acharyas and the spiritual master. If we deviate from this process, we may fall down even though we may be very highly advanced. See, this is so important. Even though we may be very highly advanced, we will fall down if we do not follow these things. So these are the things, and eating Krishna Prasadam and nothing else. So these things are very important for our spiritual life. Otherwise, we're going to create cracks through which the water will seep out. So these rules we have to follow strictly, and we should be very much closely studying the books. And also the songs that we sing every day, everything. We have to study everything. And then we will be knowing of what is the standard, okay, how to take these things. How to apply ourselves to this process. So that is the answer to that. And every time our mind gives us some wild idea, the best way is to check with devotees or to just read Prabhupada's books. We will get answers there as well. Or we can approach devotees and ask them, how should I proceed in this case? So, and for us and for the devotees to be merciful towards us, we have to be of a service attitude. Then the devotees will be pleased with us, and then they will more than happily share the knowledge. Seeing our submission, seeing our sincerity, they would want to also help. So we should offer ourselves to serve. Yes, it's Gargamuni. Somebody is saying, so the Hare Krishna movement in New Zealand in the 70s, I joined as a young child. Does that mean firstborn? What? I don't understand the question. Okay, so I will stop it there. Thank you very much for attending. जय श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंद, हरि हरि बोल, हरे कृष्ण.